Welcome to your morning cup
with iBenz Academy.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Kara.
We're Kash.
Hi.
Hi. Well, recently, Inelia Benz and Larry Wiesel released a class called Animal Communication. So this class is something that's available to all of our Subscribe Star members for Inelia Benz, as well as to Walk With Me Now members, and can be found at ineliabenz.com. So this class on animal communication is actually a second part to the Experiential Telepathy class that they also released. What was that? Several months ago. It was a while ago.
Yeah, maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, something like that. So, but the Experiential Telepathy class can also be found in those same locations. And it's one where it's all about exactly what it describes, experiential telepathy. So communicating without words, right? Communicating with others in an experiential way without having to vocalize that communication. And it's not body language either.
Yep. We have an animal who's here communicating with us experientially as well. And it's interesting because whenever I thought of the word telepathy, I always thought of it as reading people's mind and reading your thoughts and I know what Ashley's thinking, that kind of thing. And what was so fascinating about these classes is that's just not really it at all. It's the language of the universe. We experience in the universe, right? And we express and connect in experience. So for us, we're so used to using words and thoughts, and yet that's not how it really goes. Language is actually pretty recent in our evolutionary trajectory. So for me, that class was so expansive because I always thought of telepathy as words, but
words shared from one person to another.
But it's so much more than that. So
right. Well, and it really expands the way that we can communicate and the quality of the communication. 'Cause I don't know if you have ever experienced this, but sometimes I feel like words are so limiting. I don't have the right words to be able to describe what it is I'm feeling or what it is I experienced. And when it's experiential telepathy, you don't have to have words to describe it. You don't have to kind of shrink it down to fit a word and letters. It's instead it can just be that experience that you're sharing.
Right.
So as a part of that, this is the natural way, as Kara was saying, where animals also communicate in this way. So in the animal communication class, it was really awesome to be able to take that experiential telepathy awareness and knowledge that was taught in the first class and apply it to communicating with animals. But, spoiler alert, also talk about communicating with plants, communicating with crystals. So, the list can go on too, what you can communicate with. So we thought this was super relevant to what we do here at iBenz Academy, because if you haven't already heard, and if you haven't heard, we don't know where you've been, but maybe you're new and welcome. But we have a Power Objects workshop that is this is so relevant to it. It's insanely relevant. In fact, we're probably going to make it a prerequisite to take these 2 classes before you can join the workshop, because it's something where when we're making our power objects, right from the beginning, it's all about connection. All the mystical work we're doing, really, when it's boiled down, it comes to connection, right? Mm-hmm. And that connection with the materials that we're working with, the connection with our intent, the connection with our allies, which could be, our peers in the class. It could be the facilitators of the class. It could be with Inelia. It could be with your ancestors. The list goes on. And so being able to have that experiential telepathy awareness and knowledge and knowing how to communicate, which is shared in both of those classes, helps you to be able to communicate with your power objects. So with each material item, as you're creating it, as you're connecting to figure out, sometimes I've had it where I think I'm creating something, and then as I get going, that material will tell me, no, I don't want to do that, or
try something else.
It should be this. Recently I was making a painted power object, and as I was painting it, I had a vision ahead of time. It's going to look like this, and in my mind it was oh, this is what I'm doing. So I started out doing that, but then as I'm looking at it, it's the material, the paint that I'm working with, and the rock that I was using is like communicating back to me, like, no, this isn't right. We don't want this. This isn't what it's going to look like. And I was like, oh yeah, of course, like it would have been easier if I had just tuned in ahead of time to check and make sure. But, it was the creative process. It was a learning process, but being able to communicate and have that openness to that experiential feedback I was getting from the rock and from the paint, I was able to change it. And then I didn't go that direction to the initial vision of what I thought it was going to be. It evolved and it turned out better because then it's more resonant and you've got the full intent with clarity. And even like you could think it's like amplified because it's like the paint now is like, yes, this works. This is exactly how I want to express. And the rock is like, yes, this is exactly what I want to look like. And, it's like all of it comes together and that just makes it that much more powerful.
Mm-hmm. It's such an important skill. I mean, not only is it so useful to have in our day-to-day lives, like as mystics or as high-frequency people going about our lives in the new paradigm, it expands our awareness, right? It reminds us of our natural state of connection and how we communicate, like truly communicate with our environment. And it's not really done with words. Like we have Miss Machiko here who might understand some words like sit or stay or,
treats.
Exactly.
Walk.
But
right.
That's not really it. Like it's limiting. Like I can say that to my crystal here. I don't know if it's going to work. Crystals don't speak English, but we've, trained the dog to speak a little bit of English or understand a little bit of English, but it's so limiting. Language is so limiting. But when we connect and understand the broader language of the universe, like Ashley mentioned, it can become such a powerful tool to create power objects, a powerful tool to really connect and see what's going on, even with how we communicate with our animals and our environment. I'll often check in with my plants and be like, okay, what do you need? What's going on? Right? Mm-hmm. And the class is such a nice way to like practice and get like step by step. First do this, then do that, then do this. Because then it's like, oh.
And building blocks.
Exactly. There's a process. Michi's happy to be part of this show today. It is all about animal communication, too.
Something on my face that smells and tastes really good.
It's such an amazing, amazing skill set. And frankly, it's been a game changer, even with Michi here. Like, she was a rescue dog, I guess you could say. She sort of showed up in front of my house. We've talked about it before. Oh, and lie down.
Good girl. Yes, we're so happy you want to be the star of the show. Of course.
Yes. It was like a big challenge. And there were a lot of times where I had to experientially communicate and tap in, like, what is going on with this dog? Because it didn't always, follow the normal protocols like dog trainers or behavior even. And I was surprised. Like, there have been a couple of times where, experientially I'll express like, okay, we're going to go over here now, or you need to stand behind me, or we're going to be gone for a couple hours. And honestly, there was a huge change in her behavior. I was surprised.
Yeah.
Like it works, and nice. Even just on a practical day-to-day basis, it helped expand not only my awareness and how to communicate, but just connect more, like really tap in and see and feel like, what's going on with her? What's going on with my plants? What do they need? Is it sun? Is it light? Is it more water, less water, and all these things? And taking that to the next level with power objects, it's like working together as a team, like your team being, your materials and the intent you make to make that power object. And even in the workshop, Inelia talks about how you can use, animal materials or crystals or even plants and other things to enhance and make the power object, which is really amazing. But experiential telepathy is a really important skill set with that because, we got to get agreement and see what's going on to make sure it fully resonates and that the energies are clean and crystal clear. So
It's definitely like vital to be able to, in doing the course. It's like, it makes such a difference. But the other thing is really funny that I noticed after taking the experiential telepathy class, and I've done it a few times because, well, there's always things to learn and things you miss, and it's good to have the refreshers. But with it, I found that I started having experiences where people were getting like the experiential, like kind of, let's say, data or information I was putting out that I didn't realize I was putting out. Like, for example, I was at the mailbox and picking up mail, which is like a community mailbox area. It's not in front of my house. So I walked over and I had my dogs with me, and I looked over and there's some new neighbors out in front of their yard, and I was looking at them and thinking, I don't remember, something to the effect of, oh, I haven't met them before. Like, I need to meet them. And all of a sudden, you know, one of the guys who was in front of the house looks up and looks over. He said, "What'd you say?" And I was just like, you know, and it was, or it's like, what was that? I think is what he said. What was that? And, you know, and to me, it was like, oh, it's funny because I was projecting, like, I need to meet them. Yeah. You know, that was the experience I was projecting, was me meeting them. And then he's like, kind of like picked up that there was something going on for me, you know? And so I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, and maybe that's just been normal and I just didn't notice it before, but have noticed, like, becoming more aware of those situations where all of a sudden it's like, hey, guess what? Like, you are actually already doing this. It's now we're doing it consciously, right? And if that brings up fear that you're like, oh no, I'm doing this, everyone's gonna know. Like, my deepest, darkest secrets, or they're gonna know I hate them, or they're gonna know blah, blah, blah. It's like, process the fear, you know? Get over it. It's okay. We're a human collective, and truthfully, at the end of the day, most of the things we're experiencing were probably not completely unique to us. No. We're all experiencing or have experienced, or somebody has experienced it before.
Yeah, our thoughts aren't as private as we think.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So if that triggers anything, take a look at it, get curious, process it. You know, you're not alone. And chances are we've probably been there and had to deal with that too. So, you know, join the club. It's all good. But it is very empowering and freeing too. Because even like in your experience, you know, just having that thought of, oh, I need to meet these people. And then they respond, like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, it's more akin to our natural state of like what normalcy is, you know? And that connection is just amazing, and it's so cool. So,
and I lead the after parties for Subscribe Star or the Star Tribe for after the Driving to the Res podcast. And on those after parties, actually, I think it was a study group from one of the classes, but in it, one of the students was like, attendees had something to say, and I just had a nudge, I had a feeling like this person wants to talk. So I call on them, like, oh, how'd you know? You know, and then the next person, same thing. It's like, oh, did you have something you wanted to say? And they're like, I did, yeah. And, you know, it was like, I think maybe the first 3, 4, or 5 people that shared, I was like calling on them because I had that feeling like they have something to say, you know? And it's a simple thing, but it also like made it easy, you know? It made it easier for everybody on the call. It was like smooth because it's helping facilitate the process with ease, and no one was feeling like they're interjecting or cutting in on somebody else. And you kind of get past all that timidness, you know, in the beginning where people are usually quieter on a call. So there's ways too that we can apply it that just, so it's really supportive of what we do, and actually supports everybody else around us too.
Very handy skill to have, especially in like a meeting or work environment or talking to family. I mean, the possibilities are endless, truly. And we just have to, you know, open up ourselves a bit and be aware that this is actually happening all the time. We've just been doing it unconsciously, right? So when we can do it consciously, cool things can happen.
And if you're a mystic, it's essential. It's just completely essential. So experiential telepathy class, as well as animal communications class. We already referenced where you can get it. We'll put it in the show notes, but really those are just like so core.
Basic.
And again, if you have that interest in creating power objects, which again is like a foundational, like, let's say beginner level mystical skill, you want to definitely take those classes and use them to prepare for the workshop.
Oh, yeah. Every mystic has power objects. Even in, like, storybooks and movies, you'll see, like, it's there, like Merlin with his staff, or Harry Potter with his wand, or, you know, the what do you call it, crystal ball, you know, seeing the future. Like, those are all power objects, right? We know that they are a part of our co-creation experience as a human collective. We just kind of forgot how to, you know, incorporate them into our lives at a conscious level. And it's just amazing, like, what we can do with these powerful objects in our life. Honestly, they just make so many other things easier, which is awesome. So foundational core mystical skill, experiential telepathy, and creating power objects. So if that's of interest to you, you know, get the training, right? Yeah. And it's important mystics don't work alone as well. So that's why at iBenz Academy, you're going to be learning these skills in a group setting. Very important.
You know, one thing that comes to mind too, and I hear this a lot from people who like maybe want to do mentoring, or they want to do different workshops, like the instant manifestation workshop or the power objects workshop or whatever it is. It's like, well, I don't really have the time right now, or I don't have the bandwidth. I'm just so overwhelmed. And, you know, when I hear those things, it's kind of funny to me in the sense that, like, I get it because I've been there. I can relate. I know the feeling. However, I also know that the more we tune into like our natural, true high frequency state of being, the easier things become, right? And we can just expect things to be high frequency. We can expect it to be easy. We can expect to be supported. We can expect that we're supporting. And, you know, it's just, it's funny because these steps, it's like those are firewalls, and seeing them as firewalls and understanding that, okay, this is why, like, this is here. What can I do to remove that? Do I want to remove it? Or am I happy with status quo? Because it's like, as we create, for example, power objects, you know, we had somebody who created a power object in the workshop to be, I think it was like more effective with her time, or like have more time.
That was
because
so
it was
cool.
like, I really want to do this, but I don't have the time, and I'm, you know, going on a retreat and all these, like she went on a retreat during the workshop, you know, but she figured it out and she got her work done before and after and all these things, because she was just so committed to doing it. And then she created one of her power objects was around time and having more time and the time to do the things that she wants to do. And how powerful is that? It's like, so not only are you like processing and dropping the firewall that like you don't have enough time, or you're too busy, or whatever it is, right? But then also now you're getting yourself more empowered to be able to do more because you're getting the tools to do it. So, you know, it's this funny dynamic where sometimes you don't see the forest through the trees, but I promise you, like, the forest is there and it is easy, and it just is.
Yeah, it's so common to have those firewalls come up of like, oh, I'm so busy, or I don't have enough time, or I don't have the money, or I don't know. It's just, it happens, right? But recognize them for what they are. You know, if there's some generalized sweeping claim of, oh, I can, or oh, it's too hard, get really curious about that, because it's a limitation. And look at it and see, do you want to keep this limitation or drop it? And if you need some assistance, use the firewalls exercise. Great exercise to help you work through it. And then you can also see and experience, what is it like to have your life without that in place? Like, what would it feel like if you had all the time in the world, or you had all the money in the world, or you had, you know, whatever your block is, right? What would it feel like? It's very expansive. So the other thing is also, even in that example of that student creating a power object to enhance time, right? Like, I don't have enough time becomes, oh, this will help me with time. That was so amazing, because for me at an individual level, like, it never crossed my mind to make a power object for that. Like, it was just so cool. And so that's the thing about doing this workshop in a group, is that you can see and find new ideas and map to other people's experiences in ways that maybe you wouldn't have done before on your own. Like, never crossed my mind to make a power object like that, because that is a constant firewall that I'm removing and bringing back and removing and bringing back. And it's like, oh, that's such a good idea, right? So that's the other part of it, is it's a way to, you know, literally expand your creativity and imagination for what's possible. So it's just so super inspiring.
It really is. Yeah. I feel complete.
Yeah. So if you want to become a mystic, core skills, experiential telepathy, animal communication, and learning how to create power objects. So
there you go.
No matter if you're seasoned in this and have already taken the Power Objects workshop, or you're brand new, don't even know what we're talking about, there's always something that can be gained from these classes, either taking them for the first time or listening to them again. So check them out. They are amazing and will definitely help you on your path towards empowerment in the new paradigm. So we'll see you next time.
Ciao.